Theme-colored song sheets, word sheets, lyric sheets, I think they're called. And we're going to just begin first with a nigun. And then from that nigun, we're going to go into Return Again, this melody written by our dear senior rabbi, Ken Chasen. And I'm bringing this in. Last week I brought in Create a Pure Heart. And I'm bringing in each week a song for the month of Elul to get us into the spirit, into the feelings, into the mood of the High Holy Days. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la ya la, ya la 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 ya la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la again, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la, ya la 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 la. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. That's the first part. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are. Return to what you are. Return to where you are. Born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
God's boxes. I have in my hand 2 boxes which God gave me to hold. God said, put all of your sorrows in the black box and all of your joys in the gold. I heeded God's words, and in the 2 boxes both my joys and sorrows I stored. But though the gold became heavier each day, the black was as light as before. So with curiosity I opened the black. I wanted to find out why. And I saw that in the base of the box a hole, which my sorrows had fallen out by. I showed the hole to God and mused, I wonder where my sorrows could be. And God smiled, a gentle smile, and said, my child, they're all here with me. I asked why God gave me the boxes, why the gold and the black with the hole. My child, God said, the gold is for you to count your blessings, and the black is for you to let go. And so as we enter the Shabbat, as we move through the month of Elul, we have the opportunity to think about what from this year do we want to hold on to, and what from this past year, what needs to go through that black box, and that is no longer serving us and that we just want to let go of. And so we will join together in words of praise, Shir Hadash. May we all sing a new song in this year 5782. We're on page 344.
Or it's also on the same buff song sheet.
Cates is just so on it that it is on your handout. It is on your handout.
And then after that, we'll move to page 20 and 21 for Lecha Dodi. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. Let's do it again. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai Kol Haaretz Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash.
We are on page 20 and 21 with Lecha Dodi. It is this image of a wedding, a celebration that we are welcoming people into. And I will say, I think this is a prayer, at least for me, as heretical as I may sound, that might need a little reimagining, as not all weddings have brides. And so how can we think, right? And not all celebrations require a wedding. And so how can we think, especially with these beautiful tents amidst us, how can we think about entering something joyous and beautiful is upon us? And we're going to celebrate it together with these words of Lecha Dodi. We're doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nehar ki מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dirty likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. Top of 21. Hitoreri Hitoreri Kiba orech kuli ori 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 shir daberi Kevod Adonai alayich nila Elecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. We welcome in that joyous moment of Shabbat as we look at that entrance and breathe it in all its glory. Boi veshalom hateret bara Gam besimcha usola toch emunei am segula boi chala Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Pnei Shabbat Mekabela. Yalalai 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 Yalla la 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 Yalla la 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 la.
We are on page 28. We're going to join together in the Baruch Hu.
Yalla la 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 Yalla la 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 Yalla la 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 Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed Yalalai 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 Yalalai
We're on the bottom of page 31. And just like with prayer, sometimes readings at different moments in the year can take on new meaning. And so as I'm looking at this reading on the bottom of 31, it feels just so potent and appropriate for this experience of Elul, being in this moment of inner reflection together. So let's read together, bottom of 31.
This is an hour of change.
Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light.
Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
And on the top of 33. Let's join together. As you
taught us
Torah
to those whose names I bear,
teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Ba'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Ba'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochvecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'otayadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem meretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Top of 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, is a better place, a promised land, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Nichamocha, page 40.
At the words Micha Mocha Vaylim Adonai Micha Mocha Nadar Vakodesh Nora Tehilot Hoseh Hoseh
Ivenu, it is our prayer, just asking God, asking something that is bigger than all of us to watch over us, to take care of us, to protect us during these uncertain times. And so we are going to join together as a community, hopefully not just lifting up our own spirits, but lifting up the souls of one another. The words can be found on your supplemental page.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom, Leshalom, Dehamidenu Malkeinu Lechaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Once again. Amen. Amen. Amen.
In front of a lot of arcs in synagogues across the U.S. is a beautiful phrase in English which says "Da milifnei ata omed," which is "know before whom you stand." And I love this image of being in front of the ark and thinking about both our power as individuals, but also just that we are one piece of a much larger cosmos around us. And so for me, that's sort of how I think about approaching the Amidah. This is our standing prayer, known as kind of our conversation with God. And this is a chance to really think, who do I stand before? Who am I accountable for? It's not just this community, but the larger community around us, to something much more powerful than I am. And also really to think about, how can I be honest before I can be accountable to all of those forces outside of myself? How can I first be accountable to myself? How can this time of Elul, how can this new year allow me to look within myself so that I can be honest with who I am and what I need to be doing in this world and what I want to be yearning for and working on, so that then I can honestly and courageously stand before that ark or that image. And so we're going to join together in this prayer, the Amidah. It can be found on page 46, and I'll invite you to please rise.
Adonai, Tzefatai tiftach, ufi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur veHanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Hasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Ve'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechakal Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Novlim Berofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Humido Melach, Melech Memit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol, Atah Kadosh V'shimcha Kadosh, U'kadoshim B'chol Yom, Yehalelucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue praying silently through page 62. You can follow along in the prayer book or take some of your own time and be seated whenever you are ready.
On page 62. Ose Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ose Shalom B'Roma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ose Shalom B'Roma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Dirama. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Last time. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shout out to the Samuel Schrack family over here for bringing the spirit and the beat. Thank you, Shira, for bringing the actual beat. So we're very, and Bruce, of course, grateful to all of you. We are going to do something a little bit different tonight, which is instead of a sermon, we are going to do a study, which might make some of you very excited or some of you really nervous because it's interactive. So we hope you'll participate. Whichever one, we'll just lean into that. So first, I'm going to hand out a text sheet. Actually, I'm going to pass it around and everyone can take and pass. So while this is going around, a little bit of context, which is we are, yes, in the month of Elul. This is the first Shabbat of the month of Elul, and Elul is the last month in our Hebrew calendar. And it is the days that are leading up to Rosh Hashanah, to our new year. And so you might be seeing in your inboxes, there are, and there's plenty to go around. So there are Elul reflections from various members of our congregation to help get us into the spirit. And then this Shabbat, I'm going to be doing a little teaching, a brief teaching, don't worry. And next Shabbat, Rabbi Chasen will be doing a teaching. And then Cantor Cates will be doing one on Zoom the following week, so that every week we can examine sort of a different component to this work of teshuvah, this work of looking within ourselves, so that we may return in this new year, return to that true essence of who we yearn to be. And so first, I want to dedicate my learning. So this is a practice that we have in Women's Torah Study, where we think about who we want to dedicate this learning to. And I will want to dedicate it first to HUC, Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion. This is the seminary that many of us on the clergy team went to, and they offered a professional development opportunity for some of us who are mentors in the school to learn with an incredible teacher. His name is Ariel Berger, and he was the one who introduced me to these texts. And so I want to first offer gratitude. You're only as good as a teacher as the teachers who teach you, and so just very grateful to him for this ongoing learning. And so we are going to look at this idea of what it means to be asleep and how we can wake ourselves up. So the first thing I want to invite us to do is to, if you're here with someone, to turn to someone near you. If you're not, to find someone. Or if you're at home, you can think about this with your family, on your own. It can be a quiet reflection, or really it's fun if you engage with someone on this, but to think about a time in your life when you felt like you were asleep. Whether it's spiritually asleep, emotionally asleep, mentally asleep, a time in your life where you felt particularly asleep. And then to also think of a time in your life when you felt really awake. And what were the conditions that took place? What were some of the factors that you think allowed you to either be awake or to be asleep? So if you're sharing, you can either think of this again on your own and take some quiet time. If you're going to share with someone near you, each of you maybe just take 1 minute to share your reflection, and then again we'll come back together. A time in your life when you felt really asleep, and a time in your life when you felt particularly awake. And what do you think contributed to either of those experiences?
I mean, I guess I think there's sometimes where I feel like I'm like that persistent.
Take about 20 more seconds, and then we'll come back together. Does anyone want to share? You don't have to share your story, but does anyone want to share just a factor or a condition that either made you feel asleep or awake? Anyone? Just a reflection of what was going, just something that you think contributed to you feeling asleep or awake. Like I'll share that the idea of sometimes being with other people, being in community can make us feel awake, and that a feeling of loneliness or aloneness can sometimes make us feel asleep. Does anyone else have an idea of that? Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, so we're going to jump into this text. And for those of you at home, I will read it out loud so that you can follow. This is meaty, heavy stuff. So if you're wondering what it's saying, that's okay, because we're all going to figure that out together. I should say this is from Reb Nachman of Bratslav, from his text, Likutei Moharan. And there's a quote that I think really helps to frame this, which Reb Nachman says, "People say that stories put one to sleep, but I say that stories wake you up." Yeah. So for the opening text, I'll read it out loud. "For there are people who sleep away their days." So, as you know, with Jewish study, you could look at one word or one sentence for an entire night. We won't. But what do you think the text means? And this is not a rhetorical question, participation. What do you think the text means when it says someone is asleep? What does it mean to be asleep? Not present. Okay, thank you, Dana. Not present. Okay, yes. Numb. Not present, numb. Okay, yes. Ooh, unconscious of their surroundings. Not connected to your life. Is that what you said? Inner life. Not connected to your inner life. Beautiful. Okay. So, for there are people who sleep away their days. It is necessary to rouse them from their sleep. Yet it is impossible to rouse them unless they stir on their own, since there must be an arousal from below. It is just that when they stir on their own, if there was no one attempting to rouse them, then they would go on sleeping. Thus, as soon as they stir, it is necessary to show them their face and to enclose them in the face that left them while they slept. This is the aspect of awaking from sleep. We all understand what that means? Okay. So this idea of sleeping, I love so many of the reflections that you shared about not going through life with a set of consciousness, right? So, you could understand it as, when we go through the motions, but we're not really attuned to what's happening. I like when maybe there's a mismatch between your insides and your outsides, when you're reflecting something on the outside that is so disparate from something on the inside, and just how much pain and suffering that causes us. You could see it from an idea where, a particular Jewish idea is you're following the commandments, right? You're following all the laws, but you're not doing them with a certain amount of intention. And I think we could think about that with our work when we're just doing that at work, but we're not bringing our whole selves. We could think about that with our family when you are just like going through the motions. I'll say, I usually love bath time with my kids, but there's some time when it's like 7 o'clock and I'm just done. And I would say I'm asleep in bath. I'm watching them. They're fine. I'm watching them. But, I'm not attuned to like the deliciousness and cuteness that is around, and the curiosity. For me, it's when curiosity is dimmed as well. So this idea of being asleep. But what I find so interesting is this phrase, that it says it is necessary to rouse them from their sleep. Okay, we want to help wake them up, yet it is impossible to rouse them unless they stir on their own, since there must be an arousal from below. Okay, what does this mean? Does anyone have a sense what the text is saying here? Yeah, go ahead, Judy. You can't change another person's perception unless it comes from them, unless it comes from within them. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I think often when it comes to this work of teshuvah, of change, many of us, maybe not many of us, some of us, have really good ideas of what the people around us should change, right? What our kids should change, what our, family members, partners should change, what that person we don't really know, but we think we know, what they should change. And it's really easy for us to think we know. And also, and often it comes from a really kind, loving place where we really actually just want to help. And what I love about this text is it's saying, actually, you're right, it needs to come, it needs to stir, there needs to be a rumbling in that person's own heart. It has to come from within them, as Judy just so beautifully said. And so, again, what we all tend to know, but the only person we really can change is ourselves, which is much easier to say than to practice. But then I love that the text is also really honest, because it also says that even if you want to change them, it's going to fail. So like even that impulse in us that we really want to do that, it's not going to work. So don't even start. But then it says something interesting. It is just that when they stir on their own, when you're noticing someone has those rumblings, those stirrings in their heart, if there was no one attempting to rouse them, then they would go on sleeping. So that if someone is feeling that sense that, it's percolating, whatever that change, whatever that curiosity, whatever something is, brewing inside them, that it's really easy to shut that down, right? Like there are moments when we're all like, yes, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to think about this, but it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And so it's really easy to quiet that voice in ourselves. And so this text is actually saying, no, when that happens, now you have to show up. Now you do have a job, which is your job is to show them their face. That's kind of intense. That we're supposed to show them their face and then enclose them in the face that left them while they slept. What are they saying? Just throw it out there. You can't be wrong. We're all interpreting this together. Yes. Thank you, Shira. for sharing that. Just repeat if you couldn't hear. Are you, Cantor, do you have an idea? Or are you playing? Hold on. Oh, go ahead. Cantor Cates was saying being a mirror for someone when they've forgotten who they are. She shared a beautiful story about being away and that sense of being asleep or aloneness that she felt, and then coming home to people who really knew her and cared about her, how that can wake you up, right? They can remind you, they can help you put on your face and help remind you of who you are, and this idea of being a mirror and how we can't change other people, but how can we be that mirror for others to help them wake up from a place of humility and curiosity, because we know that we also can do harm, and we really don't want to do harm. We know that when we do project our own experience, or we do think we know, that we can really do unknowingly, even from a place of kindness, we can do harm. And so instead it's this idea I love of holding up that mirror, thank you, Cantor Cates, so that they can kind of on their own see themselves more clearly. Okay, we're going to go to the second text. Any other comments, questions about this first text? Yeah, go ahead, Judy. This is your face. Okay, so, and Judy, correct me if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, but what I think I'm hearing is that part of our role also could be, it has to come from within that person, but that our job in clothing them in that face could be that encouragement, that support, to say, you know, that you can do this and to support them and help them in doing this. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to look at the second text. The second text is, now, when we want to show a person their countenance and rouse them from their sleep, it is necessary to enclose the face for them in the telling of stories. We have a storyteller here, by the way. But what does that mean? What's the why telling of stories? How do you understand that when we want to show a person their countenance and rouse them from their sleep, it's necessary to enclose the face for them in the telling of stories? Why stories? What do you think it means by telling of stories? Say it again. Okay, that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. So through encouragement, a reminder that you're not alone, you're not doing this alone. Yeah. Why else? Go ahead, Melinda. So stories are a part, you said, of the cycle of life. And so we're all part of. Yes, I love that. Melinda just said it's not you and them, it's us, because it's something, part of something bigger. You're right. A statement can be right or wrong, but not a story, right? A story can't be right or wrong. And this idea of, you know, that what makes a community, perhaps what makes a community, is being able to bear witness to one another's stories. And I love this idea of the telling of stories, that often the way we can maybe help enclose someone else's face is actually just by listening to them. And that act alone can be so powerful. Yeah, go ahead, Ida. I love that stories or fables, these tales, that they mean more than is on the surface. They're often teaching us something or a lesson or a value about how we live our lives. And I think of both the stories that we tell, in Judaism, or, that we, from the Torah that's supposed to be grounding to us, but also the stories we tell of our families, and how that helps us to understand and think about who we are. Beautiful. Okay. So that the statistics can become meaningless, but that when you tell a story, it really, comes alive. I often tell our B'nai Mitzvah students when they're reading their Divrei Torah, their speeches, they're often really want to give all these facts and arguments, which are important, but when you tell a story about your life or about someone around you, it really just helps to take it from an intellectual place to really just a heart-centered place, because again, you're no longer in this debate about is this right or wrong. You're in this place of, I love what you said, but we're in this together. It's an us. Okay, last steps. Are we all, we're going? Okay, thank you, you're with me. All right, so here's my humility check. It says there are 3 reasons it is necessary to enclose the face. I only included the first one. So if you're really hungry and yearning, I'll send you 2 and 3 later. Okay, just ask me. So there are 3 reasons, we are going to look at one, that it's necessary to enclose the face. The first is, as when healing a blind person, we need to keep them shut up so that he or she or they does not see the light suddenly, and also diminish the light so that when they do suddenly see, it does not harm them. So too, when a person has been asleep and in the dark for a long time, and we want to show them their countenance and arouse them, we must enclose their face in the telling of stories so that suddenly seeing the light does not harm them. This reminded me of, do you ever, when all of a sudden it's, been dark and then someone just turns on the light? My mom used to do this to wake me up when I was a teenager. And your eyes it's just so painful to open your eyes because you've been in the darkness and the light is just too bright. And I love this translation, this image of actually that's maybe how our own inner work looks. That we can't do it for somebody else because sometimes it's just too bright. And we don't want to cause harm to someone else. We have to meet them where they are. And so instead, we want to rouse them right slowly. We want to wake them up at their pace so that the light doesn't completely blind them from this process, make them want to turn away from this. Okay. Any final thoughts, reflections on this? Okay. So as we move into Elul, we're in just the first week, so we've got 3 more. So, the beauty is we often think that the High Holy Days are just, 2 days or really Yom Kippur, but actually we've got a whole lead up. We've got this whole month of Elul, then we have Rosh Hashanah, then we have 10 days of Av, then we have Yom Kippur. Our tradition knows that looking within ourselves, if we're really doing it, can often be hard and uncomfortable and sometimes painful. And so it gives us a lot of space and a lot of room and a lot of times to make mistakes and try again. So that we really have this opportunity to think about who we want to be and then enact who we want to be with all of the missteps along the way in this new year. And so I hope this gives a little bit of inspiration for how we both can do that own work of waking up, and also how we can lovingly, when someone else wants it and is there for it, how we can help support them. We can hold up that mirror, we can enclose them, encourage them, so that they too can find their face again. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So much of what you said, I think, relates to our practice of reciting the Mishaberach together, this prayer of healing, because often it can be so helpless when someone that you love is struggling or is suffering and wanting to fix it, wanting to do something. And that sometimes there is something to do, but often that really just listening and really just showing up and being present for them is often the best gift and the most loving offering that we can provide. And so that's part of what we do with Mishaberach, is we think about and say out loud the names of people in our community who are in need of healing, whether it's healing of the mind or of the body or of the spirit. And by saying their name out loud, hopefully it will remind us to, in some ways, show up for them, to listen to them, to be there to really see their face and what they need in this moment. And so if there is someone you are thinking of on the Shabbat who is in need of our prayer for healing, I want to invite you to rise and say their name out loud so that we can recognize them and see you and pray for their healing together. It's Healing Mishaberach in the middle of page 254.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor Havracha May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor Havracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Elenu is on page 282. If you're able, please rise.
Alenu leshabeach ladon hakol, latekeru laleotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor alenu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר ואדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
Our angels spend much of their time sleeping. In their dreams, they tear down the new houses by the sea and build old ones in their place. No matter how long they may sleep, 100, 200 years, 10 centuries is not too much. The first to wake up takes the torch that has been handed down, adds a drop of oil to the lamp, blesses the eternal light, and then recalls the name of every other angel. And one by one, as they are remembered, they wake up. For them, as for us, there is nothing more beautiful than memory. As we recite Kaddish this Shabbat, we especially remember Annette Aids, Joseph Berkowitz, William H. Berman, Dorothy Boris, Ray Boxer, Gladys Cutter, Samuel Engelman, Gus Galansky, Hal Glucksman, Bruce Hockman, Lee Kausman, Alvin Cantor, Addie Kopp, Brian Lowenstein, Herman Millman, Ruth Rimus, Philip Saltzman, Wayne Michael Sawyer, Adrian Charlack, Joan Simon Szymanski, Ruth Freeman Solomon, Jana Trabish, Beatrice Tooby, Fred Windmuller, and Jonathan Worschefter. There are other names that we should add. I invite you to please say them out loud at this time.
Jelko Marisovich.
We also think of those who have died as innocent victims of violence in a world that is filled with far too much violence, and those who have perished protecting our country and our people's each at home. We'll rise together with words of memory, Mourner's Kaddish, page 294. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Olamei. Yibarach V'yishalach V'yitahar V'yitaman V'yinaseh. Yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei V'kusha V'rinfu. Le'elav Yikol V'yachata V'shirata. Tushbechata V'lechanata. Da'amiran Be'alma V'yimru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Mishmaya. V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yimru. Amen.
Shalom Bimah. Bria se shalom. Yeshua. Amen.
May their memories truly be for a blessing.
Oh, say shalom Bimah. Huya say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'iru, iru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.